If this is your very first year of investing, these are all the mistakes I wish I knew when I first got started. I started investing around 5 years ago, and I quickly realized that my emotions were out of control when it came to investing in the stock market. There were times that I was uncontrollably greedy and times where I was incredibly scared of the market as well. Because of all these wild emotions, I made so many mistakes in my first year of investing as a beginner. However, looking back after investing more than $100,000 into the stock market and losing so much money from my mistakes, I'm actually quite glad that I made them at this early stage. Now I can use them all to my advantage and learn from them to become a much better investor and earn so much more money. Hopefully at the end of this video, you'll be able to learn about all my most common mistakes I made as an investing noob and hopefully sidestep them yourself to become a much better investor. So moving forward, mistake number 1 is what I would like to call YOLO investing. I'm sure you guys have heard of this term YOLO, which means you only live once, and this behavior is usually made by people who, I think, in my humble opinion, they just want to do things without thinking too much about the expectations, basically just living in that moment, feeling that, wow, it feels so good to do this, or it feels so good to do that, or tell somebody to do this, and they just dive into it without really thinking about the consequences. I know we all have times like that, and this is one of my moments as well. I was definitely like this because I really hated my job and I wanted to get rich as quickly as possible. So it makes sense to invest as much as you can to some of these so-called high return investments, because you know what they say, high risk and high return, right? Then I can quickly become a baller and I can retire as early as possible. At least that's the lie that most people, I think, believe, and I used to believe it so strongly in my 20s. I'm no longer that naive and, would I say, retarded anymore in my 30s. Hopefully I think I'm a little bit wiser, but I used to really believe this when I was a lot younger because they were capitalizing on my vulnerability of not liking my job. Why this is so bad is because in order to invest properly, you need to have a stable mind and stable life. If you do not have enough funds for your living expenses or your everyday needs, and then if the market drops too much, you just panic like crazy or be forced to sell at a loss just to cover for basic expenses. I myself had this experience about 5 years ago when I first started investing, and I think I had around $20,000 to my name at 25 years old. I really wanted to invest into Bitcoin, and I figured that a $10,000 investment would be just about right. But that was 50% of my overall money, and I wasn't even working back then. My mindset was that I was going to go big on Bitcoin because I really believed in it, like working out. But if I had lost the entire $10,000, I was young enough to go back out to work and earn it all back. Now as I'm saying this, you can see how YOLO I was in my investing. Of course, I had reasons that Bitcoin would work out, but putting in half of your net worth into something that is super high risk and super risky, I don't know, man. I would never do it again right now, but that was just my thoughts in my 20s back then. I didn't even consider how much money I needed to live. I was just totally fine losing everything and invested 50% of my money. Eventually, everything worked out, and of course, you know the story of Bitcoin booming after that. But fast forward to today, I would never put half of my net worth into another stock or investment ever again. You need to make sure that you have enough money in your savings and emergency funds to cover the basic necessities and upcoming big expenses. Only then will you be in much better place to invest consistently for the future like a champion. And that brings us to mistake number 2, is not starting to invest early enough. If you grew up in the same era as me, which is understandably not a lot of people, I'm already pretty old, you have heard of this saying again and again. Oh, you need to invest as early as possible so that you can let time do its work and compound your money for you as much as you can, so that the money will be so much more when you have to retire. However, when I first got started investing, it was so complicated and scary, and there were a million things that you can invest in, and there was no one that said the same thing. Everyone had their version of, oh, Shenkai, you need to invest in Tesla, or you need to invest into Bitcoin, S&P 500, so many things to invest in. Then who do you honestly listen to? Everyone has a different opinion, and when it comes to investing your hard-earned money, there's definitely a very strong psychological barrier when it comes to it, and that's why so many people procrastinated, and including me, I did what any sane person would do, right? I procrastinated like crazy. I gave excuses on how busy I was, how complicated investing is, and how I didn't have any money to invest at all. What nonsense, right? Everyone has money, whether you're working or not. If you have very big liabilities, I'm sure you can still squeeze a couple of dollars, hundreds of dollars here and there on things that you can, save every single month and put it into the stock market. I'm sure this sounds familiar to a lot of you. I remember I only had the incentive to start learning about investing when I started working, and I hated my job. That gave me the push to find something else that might potentially save me from my job. However, thinking back, I kind of wish I started earlier, more because of this concept of leverage. When you're working at a job, you put in your hours and you get paid for it, right? You work 9 to 5, your boss gives you a monthly salary at the end of it because you put in the hours, and you get paid However, if you stop working or you quit from your job, you definitely not get paid anymore. Using your money to invest gives you leverage, and you can earn money without doing anything after the first investment. My money grows even when I'm asleep, even when I'm eating, and even when I'm not doing anything or I'm just filming this YouTube video. My money is growing for me and working for me as hard as possible as well, because I'm basically buying into someone's business and that person is running the business for me to some extent. I'm a small shareholder in a company. So it's honestly one of the best ways to multiply your results by just having a one-time input on investing your money, contrary to the thousands of hours you need to continue pouring into your work. And that's the reason you should start investing as early as possible to gain more leverage in the future. Mistake number 3 will be FOMO investing. This is definitely something that I see in my parents, my friends, and basically almost every other person out there. Hell, I kind of, fall prey to it sometimes as well. If too many people tell me so many good things about this stock or that stock, and I get so excited about it, I might just invest a little bit of money here and there just to test, but it will garner interest from me if a lot of people talk about it. It's just human nature to be that way. You see, we love to listen to people, and I'm sure that some people have good intentions, but everyone likes to suggest certain things that you should invest in, especially when it comes to hot investments like Bitcoin, Tesla, or any other stocks that are recently booming like Palantir, Nvidia, and all these kind of things. You get so excited when you hear people talk about it, and the more people who talk about it, the more convicted you are that you should definitely invest your money into it, which is crazy, right? Just because people are talking about it, you're investing thousands of your dollars into something that you don't know anything about. Because there's this sort of a herd theory effect where if a lot of people in society believes in something, then it's more likely for everybody to think that it's the truth, right? But sometimes it may just be that the majority is wrong, and you don't know how to think for yourself. And because so many people are investing, then the probability of them being wrong is quite low, right? It's almost a guaranteed return if you invest together as them. Honestly, I could not be more wrong about some of these events. When everyone is most excited about a stock and talking about it, is also when the stock is doing super well and it's probably at a very high price right now. I remember back in 2019 or 2020 was when my friend first introduced me to Bitcoin. I was so intrigued because of the crypto returns, and I invested my money when Bitcoin was around $18,000 at that time, I think, somewhere around that ballpark. But if you've been following Bitcoin, you would know that after that, Bitcoin dropped like crazy all the way to $3,000. This meant that my investment dropped by over 80%, and I was left with peanuts after that, just because someone suggested I should do it, and it was the hottest investment back then. Well, come to think of it, it's still a pretty hot investment right now, but you get what I mean. Bitcoin is really at an all-time high right now as well, so everyone's going crazy over it. But that's when I knew I was doing a little bit of FOMO investing. Now, if this story resonates with you, and I'm sure it will with a lot of you guys, now you know better, right? As Warren Buffett says, you should be fearful when everyone in the market is greedy and talking about a particular stock. And that's actually the signal to be cautious, at least for me, about entering something that is so popular right now. A hot take would be that it may not be a bad investment after all, even if you are chasing the hottest stock right now. The problem was that I didn't do any prior research before investing my money. I just based on hearsay, based on what people are saying, garner interest, was interested in it, and then I just invested my money. There's totally nothing wrong with investing in the hot stock. It's only a problem if you invested because your friend said so, your partner said so, or whoever said so. You're just using the lazy way of investing and hoping that you make money from it. There's so many AI tools out there right now that allows you to, in a couple hours or less, understand what it is that you are investing yourself in. This gives you enough conviction to invest your hard-earned money, and when the stock drops, which believe me, it's honestly going to happen the moment you press buy, it's going to drop almost immediately. And when it happens, you have enough perseverance to diamond hands and hold it instead of panicking and selling it off like what I did. Mistake number 4 is to get rich in my 20s quickly. I think a lot of us go into our 20s with a lot of insecurities and struggle. And when people say that they think that the 20s were their prime, I honestly don't think so. My 20s were pretty bad. It was stressful. I had a lot of self-doubt and anxiety, and most importantly, I wanted to escape all of that by getting rich quickly. Now, when you have a goal of wanting to become a billionaire before the age of 30 years old, you kind of have to make some radical decisions to get yourself there, because it ain't going to be happening from you investing into the S&P 500 and getting 8 to 10% of returns in less than 10 years. That's where you see me doing YOLO investing, that $10,000 into Bitcoin, as I mentioned just now. However, I also fell into the trap of thinking I should day trade myself to that $1 million mark, because if I could earn 1 to 2% on every trade, then if I make hundreds or thousands of trades in a year, then I'll be able to earn a crazy amount of money as well. Now, I fell into this trap for 2 years years and I made thousands of trades, and guess what? Not only did I not become a millionaire, I even made a joke of myself and I lost so much money trying to do so. Meanwhile, while all of this was happening, I had another long-term portfolio that I invested once, and it actually grew so much without me lifting another finger to mess with it. Now, I read this quote recently from this book called The Psychology of Money, and it says that Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, only had 81.5 billion of his 84.5 billion net worth after his 65th birthday. So this guy who was super famous in the world of investing only made over 90% of his wealth after he qualified for retirement age. What a joke I was trying to outsmart everyone out there by day trading my way to $1 million. Since then, I've adopted a more peaceful and relaxed sort of a mindset towards investing and consistently invest into the S&P 500 every month and focus on long-term sustainable growth. That way I can ensure that I become a millionaire almost guaranteed in my 50s or 60s, and I can also adopt the lazy approach of not having to stress over the daily movements of stocks. Mistake number 5 is panicking during recessions or when there's a bear market. Now, people intuitively feel a lot of greed when they see the market is rising and being green, and when it drops fast, and when everything is red, everyone is afraid and selling things off too quickly to prevent further loss of any money. Basically to cut off the pain that they are feeling, as well as they see their portfolio go deeper and deeper into the red. A very good example of this was 2 months ago when Trump announced that he would impose tariffs on the whole freaking world. The whole stock market dropped like, what, 20-30% in a couple of days? And I'm sure a lot of it dropped because so many people were selling away their stocks in fear that it would drop even more. They were basically reacting to the news that Trump was imposing the taxes on people, and they're just scared, right? I was quite lucky because I had already watched this play out once during the pandemic season of stocks dropping 30-40% in a couple of weeks. Everything was super red, and who knows how long the pandemic was happening and how much more the stocks would drop. I think what nobody expected was that the stocks almost made an instant recovery after that, and stocks like Tesla even 10x during that period of time. That was where I learned that recessions were not something to be afraid of. In fact, I think it would be the great transfer of wealth from the people who are fearful over to the people who really understand what they're doing with their stocks, because they're diamond handsing, I don't even know if that's a word, but they're basically holding onto their stocks so firmly, and they might even be buying more stocks to average down into an even better price when the stocks are selling off. So imagine buying just $10,000 worth of Tesla during the pandemic, and you have more than $100,000 worth of it right now. If you invested 100 grand, you would instantly be a millionaire. So recessions and bear markets are not only something fun and exciting for the stock market. Overall, I think the whole mood of the world is pretty bad, but for investing, it's actually pretty good. So I've learned to reframe my mind to find these golden opportunities where the market gives you a chance to buy stocks at such a cheap price and take full use of it, because it'll be the fastest way you can earn a super big return provided you buy the right stocks. If you've reached to this point of the video, these miscellaneous mistakes might not be relevant for some of you guys, but if you're interested, some of the mistakes I made were things like overtrading, using excessive leverage that got me burned like crazy, having crazy unrealistic goals on investing that led me to do stupid investing decisions. I was also comparing my returns to others and trying to beat them like a competition, letting my emotions get to me, and ultimately not understanding what I was investing in. If any of these mistakes sound like you, don't be afraid, you're not alone, because a lot of people are in the same boat as well. I assure you, no matter what people think or say, they're probably leading you on and they actually don't know what they're doing either. Everybody is kind of freestyling their way into investing in the stock market to some extent. Ultimately, it's your first year of investing, so don't beat yourself up over things. It's normal to make mistakes, it's normal to lose money, but don't let it stop you from trying to improve and continue investing sustainably for your family and retirement. Hopefully this video has been helpful to you guys to highlight some of the major mistakes I've made in my life, and you guys can avoid them, saving you thousands of dollars in the process as well. If you enjoyed this video here, then you might enjoy this video here on how to invest on the muchhhhhh Singapore app as a beginner. Thanks for watching, have an amazing day as usual, and I'll see you guys in the next few videos. Bye bye.